Hello and welcome to Legoland Malaysia, and we have a full park walkthrough. So it's a long one, but we've got lots and lots of different bits and pieces to see and take a look at. So we start on the outside. This is obviously where you collect all the tickets and all those bits and pieces, but it also gets overlooked by the incredible Legoland Hotel, and where you've got the big pirate ship, there's actually some little bits and pieces there from the Sea Life Centre as well. So there's lots of different things that you can book, so you could spend a couple of days here if you wanted to, because don't forget there is also a huge water park here at Legoland Malaysia, and that is something that I did not have time to even stick my head through and visit, just because I was only here for one day. Now we've just gone through the ticket booth, and this is the first thing you get greeted with. So you've got some fantastic photo opportunities on the inside, and there is, at the time of this being filmed, some different events happening over at Legoland Malaysia. So again, if you did manage to take part in any of these, then obviously please do let me know in that comment section below, because it did look very, very impressive. And as the day unfolded, there was more and more music being played, and there was lots more people sat down and just building lots of different bits and pieces. But you can see all these incredible models as you first come in. I am assuming that these are brand new to the park for this event, and they aren't something that are there all the time. So if you could let me know, that would be fantastic. But as you first come in, to the left and right hand side of you, you've got shops on the left, so you did see the brick shop there on the left hand side. Then you've got customer services on the right hand side, and then just beside the customer services you then also have the big Lego shop as well. Now both of those videos, like all of the other theme bits and zones with regards to Legoland Malaysia, are already uploaded in the Legoland Malaysia playlist. So if you want to see some of these areas more individual, and then obviously you can do if you want to, and there will be a little bit more detail with regards to what is in the shops, for example, and all the other little bits and pieces like that. But for the full park tour, I have basically added everything in that I could find, and all of these, pretty much looking at these for the first time as well, because there are lots and lots of models we're taking a look at. So we are spoilt for choice with regards to Lego sets, places to eat like the cafe. You've got lots of different entertainment. The Miniland is also fantastic. The rides are very, very good, and like I said, with regards to where you can actually buy Lego sets around Legoland Malaysia, you are spoiled, because you can see just here you have the big shop, and then we've already seen the brick shop, which is literally a pab wall, but it is a shop, and it is incredible for the amount of different bits and pieces that you can buy. And then again, you've got all these different sets within the window, you've got some more sets within the customer service. So when you walk through the front door, you actually have 3 different places you can buy something before you've even walked in to the park. And you can see that you've got the Avengers Tower, the Eiffel Tower, all those different bits and pieces out on display. This is something that I didn't actually show in the shop video, because I actually filmed the other window. So yes, the windows wrap all the way around the outside of the big shop, and they have all 3 of these side by side, and that does look fantastic, which is the big Harry Potter with the track that goes underneath it. You can see the D&D set, you've got the castle, and then you've also got the Concorde up there, and then you've got some other little bits and pieces up there as well. Very, very impressive, just with the volume of stuff that was built to take a photo at, and obviously have a look at the window. And of course, you've got the famous park bench photo opportunity. This is always impressive. I do like to see these. These are dotted around the Legoland parks in completely different areas. Now, everything that we are looking at now, all these different places, the beginning is what we've just had a look at. You've got Lego Kingdoms, Lands of Adventure, Lego City, Lego Technic, the Imagination section, and then obviously Lego Ninjago World. Every single one of these are already available in a completely separate upload, but we are just going to be taking a slow walk round as one big loop to see all of these different bits and pieces. Now, this was very, very impressive to see. Now, there was a big Star Wars walkthrough at some point at Legoland Malaysia, and obviously now they're not allowed to do it because of the Disney rights and yada yada yada, but they still had a huge amount of models on display, and seeing some of them built for the very, very first time was very impressive indeed. Now, we are just taking snippets from the shop, so that shop was video alone is about half an hour long. So if you want to see more of what is involved inside the actual shop, then head over to the Legoland Malaysia playlist, because there is a lot of other videos in there as well. And of course, you can have a look at all of the sets and all the minifigures and things that are involved. Now, we have just walked out of the shop, and now we're going to be taking a walk around. Now, at the time of this being filmed, they were doing maintenance to the actual track, so they had put this in a really cool location, so you can actually see this really, really easily. Now, to the left hand side, In the background, you'll see the water park. There's the big shop. The hotel's in the very, very background. And then where the camera's pointing now is actually going into the Lego City section. But there's all of these dotted around as well. There's models absolutely everywhere. So now, some of these models are the first I've ever seen of them. Some of them I have actually seen before, but do look slightly different. So it's quite cool to see. And obviously, what I did really appreciate is on the Legoland Malaysia website, they did give you a date of when different things weren't going to be running and when new things were going to be installed to the Miniland section and all that kind of thing. So you knew what to expect when it was out of season. So obviously now this video has been uploaded at peak season, or hopefully that you'll be watching this before you head over to Legoland Malaysia. But if you have just come back from the park, has it changed at all? Because this video, from the date of this being uploaded, is only a couple of weeks old. So it has taken me a while to get this video up and done, because like I said, I've done all of the others individually. Right? Like I said, in the background you can see the cool Legoland symbol on the sort of mountains. That is where the water park is located, and then we've got this nice little bridge that we can walk over, which will take us into the Miniland section. So again, the train is not running whatsoever, but you will see people walking around with tools and just sort of repairing and replacing different bits and pieces of the track. And it was quite interesting to see how they were doing that, because it would have been quite nice, I think, to be able to get onto the trains. It did look like it was quite a big loop, so that would have made quite an interesting video actually, because I would have tried to have gone in it twice because it's so quiet. I would have filmed out the one side and then obviously filmed out the other, and then just put it both together. So you probably would have seen most of the park from the train, which is not normally what you get an opportunity to do. You do get a good view at the one in Billund, not so much at the one in Windsor. It's because it's such a big park, Legoland Windsor, so you do see a lot, but you don't see all of it just because of the size of the track and the size of the park. But with regards to the Miniland as well, so I've just added in a couple of snippets from the Miniland, because like I said, it's a big park to walk around. They had added in some brand new builds for 2024, and it did look very, very impressive indeed. So again, if you wanted to see the full Miniland video, that is also available in a separate upload, and that video is very, very long as well. So this video is already an hour and a half, and I could have easily added on another hour, if not longer, by just adding in the shop and the Miniland as well. So as we come round, you can see you've got some other bits and pieces with regards for photo opportunities. They do look very, very impressive indeed. And the weather was sensational on the time that I was here. Now, I am hoping to get to some more Legoland parks before 2024 runs out. We have already uploaded Legoland Windsor bits and pieces. Obviously, we've got Malaysia, and I did manage to get to Dubai in this trip as well. So there's lots and lots of Lego content to come from this channel, and obviously that is going to continue. And then you've got to keep your eyes peeled for all of the different comparison videos as well, because a lot of the rides might be similar, but with a different theming in a completely different location of the park. So I do find that very, very interesting. Now, one thing I really did like, and I thought was very different, is this. So as you start to walk into each land, they actually give you the minimum height that you need to be straight away, and they tell you the list of different bits and pieces that are in there. Now, I have not yet seen that at any other Legoland parks I visited, so if you do have that at your local Legoland park, then obviously let me know, because I think that is a very, very handy thing to have, because obviously if you're looking for some slightly smaller rides, you can literally not so much skip this, but you don't have to worry about queuing up, because you'll be able to see it straight away. You can just walk past all the ones that you can't get on, and then you can get to, example, say the Duplo Valley or something like that if you are desperately looking for the much shorter rides. And again, from an adult point of view as well, it is quite handy just from being a parent, or if you just want to find some of the quicker rides because you've got a little bit of time to kill, you could get on the roller coaster, for example. So it's always nice and easy to get that kind of information. But you might have spotted the gate that I am walking to. So you've got the hotel, and from the hotel you can just come out the entrance and actually turn left. And if you turn left, you won't obviously be in the park, but you can get to the water park from there. But the park, as it stands, this bit was actually closed at the time me getting there. But I would imagine that this would be the ticket kiosk to get in from the hotel, or connecting it in to the water park like we have seen at Dubai. But I would imagine that that would be used at peak season. So this coaster was running later on in the day. They were just doing basic maintenance stuff in the morning like they tend to do, and then as it picked up a little bit, then all of the rides were open. So credit to them, every single ride was pretty much up and running at probably one of the quietest times of the year, because don't forget, I try and get out and about in the off season so I can easily walk around, get on the bits and pieces, and obviously film like I am, because you've got to remember that when it's the summer holidays, I would imagine it would be extremely busy, and then obviously it makes things a little bit more difficult because you can't get on everything in one day. But if you do come out of season, you just need one day and you can basically walk on to this quite cool roller coaster. The VR bit was not working, and I haven't actually seen the VR technology on any of these for a very long time. So the last time I did see it was, I think, at Legoland Florida years ago, and even that was hit and miss. So I think they've just got rid of all the VR headsets. It was a clever idea, because when you were waiting in the queue, or you were sat on the ride waiting for it to go, it looked like you were in the pit lane and you didn't know that you were climbing up the big steep chain, and then it looked like you went out the door and then you just shot off and then carried on. But yes, that is a huge turbine fan, and then you do have some lockers that you can put some bits and pieces into, so obviously it's very handy to do that, especially for the log flume ride. That is a ride I got absolutely drenched on, and I mean soaked. Me and one other chap went on it together, because you have to go as a 2. You cannot on the log flume rides go as a 1. On this one I understand, because they pair you up side by side, but the one in Windsor, it's just a row of 4 in each individual seats, and they still won't allow you to go by yourself. You have to go as a group of 3 or a 2, and obviously if you're a 2 and a 1, they will split you up. But on this one, there was me that wanted to get on it and somebody else, so we just went on as a 2. We had the whole boat to ourselves, got sat in the middle, and I was wringing my t-shirt out and everything else for a good while. So I think it is the wettest log flume at a Legoland park I've been on ever, and I do highly recommend it on a hot day. But you can see they've got the Legoland Academy just here, so you can go in there and get some bits and pieces done. The one thing that they don't have at Legoland Malaysia is they do not have a Ferrari section yet, so that would be very interesting to see if, as and when, that will come, because they still at the moment have the 90 years of play up and running, which would be probably a perfect location either for something mythical as a walkthrough attraction, maybe, because that's where the Star Wars used to be. So if they can just rearrange it like they had for the Star Wars and just put the massive mythical bits and pieces in there instead, that would be a pretty cool Lego walkthrough attraction. Or they could do the Ferrari bit, but they have got an area like they did at all of the older Legoland parks where you can still build all the vehicles, but they're just not under the Ferrari license. So very interesting to see what is going to be coming to all of the other Legoland parks over the next couple of months and years, because they do seem to be having a lot of growth going on at a lot of the Legoland parks at the moment. I'm desperate to get to Legoland Germany. I want to get back to Legoland Billund to see what's happening over there. Legoland Windsor has just had a new dueling roller coaster added, and then we have had the one in Germany where they've had a huge roller coaster for Mythica as well. Hollywood, California has just had a new section added, which I do believe is going to be like a Jurassic Park section. So that's going to be a very interesting thing. But this is the 90 years of play. So this is the Rebuild the World section. In that area is the walk around attraction, where I did do a full comparison of the Rebuild the World section and of course the Star Wars section as well. So I went round it twice and then added in the older footage from Legoland Windsor, and then you could see where the models used to be and where I thought the models used to be, and it brought back flashbacks of me walking back and around that Legoland Windsor park many years ago. That's a very surreal experience to walk around that. But you can see that their Miniland acts as like a big hub. So what you can do is you can cut through the Miniland, you can cut into the different sections. So I could have, if I wanted to, just walked straight through the Miniland itself, and then we could have just got to this section. I could have skipped this section and just turned right, and then if you turn right, I do believe you then get into the castle section. So there is zones for absolutely everybody everywhere. So there is a couple of flickers in this part just because the type of lighting that they use, so it is slightly annoying sometimes that the camera works absolutely perfect, and then sometimes it doesn't, and you don't really notice that until you watch it back. But if you don't know what the Rebuild the World is, a couple of years ago they released some of the sets. That is a snippet of another probably 25-minute video as well. It's a good walkthrough. It would have been a good walkthrough, shall I say, for the Star Wars bit, because it had a lot of the walls sort of replaced and done, which I do show off in the video. But what you just saw is just sat down areas inside in a really nice air conditioned room that you could then just build lots of different bits and pieces. So it's just a building area and a building zone, and that is something that I have noticed that Lego are starting to do more and more. They've added in 1 or 2 sections at Windsor, and they've done a really good section at Billund as well, where you can just sit down and basically build. And I kind of agree with that. It's supposed to be one of those areas where it's cooler, you can sit down, you can grab yourself a bite to eat by the calf, go in, build loads of bits and pieces, and it's just taking the best from the Lego house in Billund, where it's really good activities for the smaller ones and bigger ones alike. And of course, they are starting to add in some boat racing bits and pieces as well, so you can stand out in the sunshine and then you can just build some bits and bobs. Now, I do full loops of everything. The reason why I always do a full loop is because I missed this on the way through. So this is maybe an Easter egg, or this has been there for ages, of one of the Ferrari cars. Now, obviously, what they've done is they have added in full-size Ferraris now at a lot of the Legoland park. So potentially, this might be the car that they're going to be getting. This thing is absolutely stunning. And this is obviously the one that you could have bought in a Speed Champions variant as well if you wanted to. They have had this for sale, and it does look very, very good in a smaller Speed Champions form. But you can see you've got all of the artwork for all of the different cars and different bits and pieces in the Lego Academy. Potentially that would be the place that they would put the Lego Ferrari build, or they would do it in the Rebuild the World section. It's got to be one or the other, because inside here is where you can build your cars, if I remember rightly. But it's such a big park with lots of different bits and pieces that you can do. They have got lots of opportunities to be able to swap things around. So it will be very, very interesting again to see what they do in the future. So as we are nearly 20 minutes in already, how does this compare to your local Legoland park or your Discovery Centre? Because obviously a Discovery Centre is something that I cannot go in and film, but they are all over the place. So the Discovery Centres are a smaller version of the Lego house in Billund, and there is a big playlist available for that as well. So if you are into seeing lots of different Lego bits and pieces from around the world, there are easy playlists available within this channel. And if you want to see more just travel stuff, head yourself over to the Global Life Travels channel, where it's all of the flying, all of the hotel stuff, and just proper vlog stuff. So it's not just theme park stuff that I've been filming, because obviously when I'm doing the Legoland parks, I will then obviously go off to, say, for example, Disney or Universal, and that all gets uploaded onto a separate channel. But within that channel as well, there's lots of other little bits and pieces that we can take a look at. So lots and lots of different bits and pieces on the Brick Life Travels channel, and of course the Global Life Travels channel as well. But we are making our way out of this zone, and we're going to be going into the next section. But again, you've got lots and lots of different walkways, lots of different paths to get to the different areas. So you can see we are using almost that caravan, which is where you could just buy yourself a drink and a bite to eat, as almost a reference point, because obviously I keep going back to that, but I've got to that area now 3 different ways. And again, we're at the Rebuild the World section again, but now I do believe we're just going to carry on walking in a straight line, and that takes us to the Kingdom section. It's a very easy park to navigate, so you can just easily walk all the way around the outside, or you can just cut through the Miniland, and then you can just use the Miniland, a bit like Dubai, where you can just use the Miniland at Dubai as like a hub, and then we can just go from there. That is a very, very rough battery change. I am not editing that bit out whatsoever, because it is hot. The camera was struggling a little bit, so the battery seemed to drain a little bit more, but I was lucky because I had just enough batteries to survive the day. And as you can imagine, I filmed nearly 4 hours of stuff. I think I did film quite a lot of different bits and pieces, which is never a bad thing, but then at the same time it's quite hard not to add everything in for a full park tour, because I end up walking back on myself quite a few times. So within here, if you are into your knights and into your castles and kingdoms, you can see you've got the apprentice, you've got the dragon, which is obviously the main roller coaster of the park, and then you've got some nice places to eat, and then you've got some really good photo opportunities as well, which is always a good thing. And this did have lots and lots of different models located around the park as well. That's something I really did appreciate with regards to just being able to sort of soak all of this in. I come from a point of view of just wanting to see the different layouts. I like seeing it from a business point of view of how do they do things differently. And this section of the park, I think, is probably the biggest kingdom one I've ever walked around, and it was very, very impressive. And when it was extremely hot, there's lots and lots of shade, which is obviously very, very handy. And they had added in a lot of the turbine blades as well. So that's somewhere, it's a good area to try and keep cool, because you can imagine when it's very, very hot and you are walking around, you will get drained and tired very, very quickly. But you can see you've got a couple of different park benches. You've got a couple of these different models, for example. So I've missed some of them, so I've just come back because I walk into each section completely blind. I don't look at the map because I like to explore it for the first ever time. And you never know until you've done it if you can do a full horseshoe or it's one way in, one way out. So I just made sure that I filmed absolutely everything on the way in, because that is one or two of the models that I missed on the way in. So in here, if I do remember rightly, directly in front of us is a big soft play bit, or say a soft play. It's a big play area for the smaller ones, and then you've got the Dragon Apprentice just to my right hand side. But because there was literally no little ones here whatsoever, and it was just couples and adults walking around, all of the adults were going on the much smaller roller coasters, which you could normally never get on because the queues are usually packed with little ones, which obviously makes sense. So you can see that that is part of one of the roller coasters, and then you can see you've got the jousting in the far distance, and you can basically pick your team, pick your chance, and then just go from there. But again, they've got some of these different models which I haven't really seen before with the Kingdom's banner. Some of them might be much, much older. I do find it very, very interesting to see all of these, but you can see you've got the drawbridge that goes through, and then you could just walk straight on to the Dragon's Apprentice, the Apprentice and the actual Dragon roller coaster if you wanted to. So doing this and Dubai back to back, they are pretty much exactly the same with regards to the theming, with the exact same location, apart from the one in Dubai is indoors. So everything we are looking at now is literally the same. Windsor is different, and obviously Billund is completely different with regards to how you enter the castle and what's in the castle and that kind of thing. But they've both got the updated dragon symbol. You've both got this little waiting area just here. This is a nice little touch because this bit was air conditioned on the inside just here. So you could just sit down and relax and just grab a breather. And then obviously if you wanted to, you could do what I'm about to do now and head up the stairs. And then I walked straight onto the ride, did a loop, good big track actually. Obviously it's meant for the younger ones, but I do enjoy going on it just to compare what the track layout is compared to all the others around the world. I think the quickest I've ever been on might have been Germany, I think it was Germany or Florida. One of those two were very, very fast compared to what they normally are. But again, as you get on the Dragon, obviously you enter the actual main thing, you sit yourself down. For about maybe 2-3 minutes, you've got a really slow ride where you see all of the main models. It's very, very impressive. But sometimes they are slightly different. So you might have a model in a different location. I wish I could film all of it, and then you've got the opportunity to put the camera away before it hits the actual main track, because it goes at such a slow pace. You could easily film everything without dropping anything, but then when it hits the actual main outdoor bit where it speeds up, obviously for health and safety, you can't have your phone in your hand, so you're not allowed to film anything as you go around. But I really wish they would even open it up for the first hour in the morning where you could just walk around that bit and just see, obviously not on the track, but you could have easily have a walkway round and just see all of those models, because it's one of the more impressive entrances to a roller coaster I've actually seen, because there's so many bricks there. But you can see that is just waiting. That is what I'm talking about. So you just go around really slowly for about 2-3 minutes. You've got all the different animatronics and all of that kind of thing. It would be nice to be able to film it and then do a comparison video on all of the different coasters around the world, but obviously you can't, so I will get over the fact that you can't, and I will start now walking to the next bit within this section of this huge kingdom and castle section before we move on to the next bit. But like I said at the very, very start of the video, we do cover absolutely everything. And of course, and the Ninjago section is very impressive. You've got the adventures bit for the laser shooter. That worked very, very well because each one of the laser ones that you go on to, some of them are completely different colours on the inside, and depending on what colour you hit will depend on the points that you get given. Some of them you actually spin around and go from wall to wall to wall. That is something I would really like Legoland Windsor to update. Either make it a little bit quicker with regards to how you can get on the ride, because the queue line for that is just unhealthy because it is so big for how short the ride is, but then at the same time the ride is so dated compared to some of the rides that I've seen elsewhere in the world. Very interesting to see what happens at Legoland Windsor because they've been adding in quite a lot of new bits and pieces, and obviously the next bit that they're going to be having to have a look at is the Viking River Splash that is now closed, which is a huge area at that park as well. So it seems to be that some of the parks around the world are closing bits and pieces down. You can clearly see the direction that they're going to be going with the space that they've got for new bits and pieces, because Windsor at the moment really has had a huge growth rate, whereas somewhere like this where I've been walking around, I quite hard to see what is going to be coming because everything is open. So there's not like an area of the park that they've either closed or they've just basically pancaked from way back when. Whereas Windsor, they always seem to do that. They seem to shut something down for a season or so you can really see that they are obviously trying to plan something new. Then all of a sudden it'll be done and then it'll look absolutely fantastic. So it does seem to be every single park around the world has a completely different way of doing things, and Malaysia is one of those where I just can't visualize what they're going to do next with what area, because every single area seems to work perfectly fine. I don't know, because they've got a huge water park as well, they don't tend to update stuff too much, because at Legoland Dubai, I've gone there once or twice now over a good few years, and I haven't seen any changes whatsoever, and I don't think they've changed anything in their Miniland either. But I think because their main focus point, because of the weather, is their water park, maybe that's how the budget gets split up. But I have no idea about the finances of things, but I do try and enjoy the business side of stuff from time to time. But if it works and they don't need to change it, then why should they? But going back to Windsor in regards to the adventure section, I'm talking about a theme that is at a Legoland park all around the world, but yet they do not sell it in Lego form. So will that be returning in 2025? Because they started with the Indiana Jones stuff and stopped. That will they re-release any of the older adventure sets? Because obviously they did have a throwback and a tribute to that in the Haunted House, and then we have had some Easter eggs to some bits and pieces with the museum set, and it does seem to be that in the new Explorer stuff that we do have Johnny Thunder back. But will they go all the way back to old school adventure, or will they have it more as this modern theme under the sort of urban explorer type stuff where they're doing it with all the bright orange and the bright blue? So let us know in the comment section below from a Lego set point of view, any of the themes that we are walking around today, would you like to see Lego re-release in Lego form? Because all of the hotel rooms, apart from obviously Lego Friends and Ninjago, is stuff that they don't make anymore, but it is based on classic themes, because those themes were available when the original parks opened up. So hence why that is why they've gone very, very big and very, very deep on it. But again, they've only just re-released a castle, but you can see how big a theme it is at Malaysia, how popular it is here, and how popular the theme is across the board, especially going on the designer programs and things like that. There are so many people designing different castles. I need at some point to try and pick one of those castles up to add it into my own display, to then add some sort of ride around it, because it's very, very important to the Legoland section. But talking of different sections, we are about to leave the Kingdom section itself. Yes, there is a horse jousting. There is That is available at one or two of the other parks around the world as well, but not available everywhere. So not even in that theme either. So it is always quite nice to see bits and pieces that you don't see too often. And this is exiting the Dragon's Apprentice, I do believe. So as I'm coming off that, you do get a cool view of this track. Now, the little ride, you go around twice. And obviously on the full fat dragon ride, you only go around once. But obviously you can see in the right-hand side just how much taller and bigger that track is. But both of them have good photo opportunities if you have a relative or a little one on there, so you can get the photo taken of them easy enough. And you can see that there's nice seating area just around here where you can just plonk down and sit about. And I have said this in previous uploads, the one thing that I do really appreciate walking around, especially Malaysia, is not only do you know that you're in each individual zone, it's completely different because obviously the type of theming that we're looking at, but also the ground. So you've got to start paying attention to the floor that we're on, because you can see we're on like a big cobble type stone path that they built on this one. But the second we get into a different zone, everything changes. So not only does sort of like the area of what it's in, the shape, the floor, everything like that completely changes. It's very, very impressive just to see the thought process that they've put behind all of these different bits and bobs. Now we're coming around, I think I came around again because I missed some bits. So you have got all the food that is available just here, so you can see you just have to give that a pause. And then again, moving on to the castle bit just on the inside, that is the better look at the external part of the castles as we've already walked in there. And then you have got some more models just on the outside. Just behind me there are different places, like I said, where you can eat. The water on this one doesn't have a dragon, whereas some of them they do have the dragon. So again, that is a slight difference between the different parks as well, because they do have models located in different sections. Some of them have the models, some of them don't, but this is a nice thing because they've got just really big sheltered areas. And I'm about to go over, I do believe, and put another battery in. So hence there's going to be a little sort of stop off at the table and then a carry on again. That's because the battery dies just there. So that is a very, very smooth edit. That's your menu. That's where you can pick up your bits and pieces from. Huge area that you can eat out as well if you wanted to. So you are spoiled, really, really spoiled. Again, at Malaysia for just menus. You've got a nice little buffet bit just all around the outside, and you are in different zones and different sections. So we have moved on to the next section. So that is the castle done, and we are now moving on to the next area. So we've just literally walked around the corner and we are back to the eatery. So I've literally just dropped and dragged lots of different files that I've got, and we are just taking a look at absolutely everything that we can at Legoland Windsor. Now what I am going to start doing in the future is, once I have filmed everything individually, I am then just going to do one big uncut loop of the park. That way it'll be a lot easier for me to put it together, and that way you'll be able to see how the paths interlink to each other a little bit better. Now I did do that on the Global Life Travels channel at the Universal Studios in Singapore, and it did come across very, very easy to navigate. You could see I just did it in one big loop, whereas here I am cutting different bits and pieces off, because there would have been some paths that I wouldn't have walked down, or I would have walked down when I was changing the battery, because I'm just trying to save time, because I don't know how long it takes to get around here. But again, just doing a big loop on this one. Lots of photo opportunities. It does say under maintenance on that bit just there, but I'm not 100% sure why. Some of them did have the signs there, so I think one or two of the models might have been taken away, and obviously they're going to be updated and upgraded, because if I remember rightly, seeing that model elsewhere, they did have some other bits and pieces around it and they were missing. Now there is a history of the reason why Lego like giraffes, but I can't remember what it is. So if you give it a Google, I'm sure there's a reasoning behind it. In fact, I know there's a reasoning behind it, because they have different giraffes at every single Legoland park around the world, in multiple as well, but I'm not 100% sure why. I don't know if it's like it's their mascot, or it's just the favourite animal of what used to be the owner of the Lego group. There is just a really simple reason why, but they are very, very effective as well, because obviously they're very tall, they're very colourful, and they stand out nicely as well. Now you can see you've got nice little places in the shade that you can sit down. You can get away from the hustle and bustle of the park if you wanted to. You have then got an opportunity to play musical instruments if you want to. This is the first one I've seen as a roundabout, I do believe. Normally it's just in a long straight line and you can just jump on them either side, whereas this one is a clever sort of bit between the two sections of the park, because this is ending of the one zone coming into this zone, and that zone is what we'll be exploring in a couple of minutes once we've finished the loop of the one that we're in. That's why I think what I'll do is, if I just do a full walkthrough, I can pan over to the left and pan over to the right, so it doesn't make this video as long, because obviously what I'm doing a full loop around and then jumping to the next zone. So it's still a full walkthrough, but I just do this to see things from a different perspective, whereas when I then went over to Singapore and filmed it there, I did things as a full loop, and then when I did the walkthrough, I actually walked through the park the opposite way to where I first started to film. It was a lot easier for me, and I think it comes across a lot cleaner on camera as well. It's just that little bit easier to follow. So again, that is looking at that cool little roundabout. That was very, very popular, the big ones and smaller ones alike, because you can try and make your songs up as you go. But look how the floor has suddenly just changed. So again, we've gone from one bit to another to another. So we are now in the Land of Adventure. Now this is pretty cool because they have got a very, very good crossover of Johnny Thunder, of all people, mentioning him before, and of course some dinosaurs as well. That was pretty cool to see in the log flume section, because the log flume section itself was just a nice, simple sort of wrap around. You climb up the lift, don't think anything of it, you see some nice little models, then you drop down and get absolutely drenched. I do believe, if I remember rightly, the one at Germany, you end up going in sections of the ride backwards, and that is quite a large log flume as well. And then obviously you've got the one at Billund. They've also, at the one in Billund for the Land of Vikings, has a very, very big drop for their river rapids as well, which is something again completely different to some of the other parks. So if you are starting to get more and more interested in seeing, like I said, the other full walkthroughs, we've got one from Billund, Windsor, Dubai, we've got one from California, and we've got one from here. So we've got 5 different Legoland parks around the world. Each one of those Legoland parks from around the world will have its own playlist as well, but you can see there on the instructions, no single rider. So I was just going around to see if there was a single rider queue line, which there wasn't, but they did allow it to happen. But I've got a very funny feeling. I've just got off. Look at the state of me. That t-shirt was light grey. So there was not a single bit of me that was dry. I don't understand how I managed to get so wet on that ride, but it was very, very good. Now, again, of course, with regards to all of their placement of different bits and pieces, they have shops everywhere. And of course, once you've got soaking wet and drenched, what do you need? Well, you need dry clothing. So they have put this in the perfect location, because they tend to do that at all of the different water rides around the world, especially with the more heavy log flumes that they've got at Universal, for example. When you get off those, you are wringing wet, and then obviously you need to get yourself a hoodie or something. But the nice thing about this store is not only is it clothing, you have all of the different Lego sets and other smaller bits and pieces that you can only get at the Legoland parks around the world, but you can obviously buy some of these larger sets. So it's a good place to get these from when it's very, very busy. So if you are doing the log flume last, and then you're about to get changed and go home, or you've got spare clothes in the car or something because you're a veteran and you don't want to drive home wet, you could just pick up the set that you wanted from there, because it would save you queuing up for a long, long time when you leave, because obviously every single person will then just go to the big shop at the very, very end of day, and it can be quite a busy area. So everybody in the park all congregates at that shop right at the end, and the shop is normally open 1 more hour after the park has closed. But again, inside that big shop, if you did want to hunt down that video, there is something for everybody in there. They have every single theme that you could possibly imagine and buy from obviously the Lego website. Then you've got all of the different, some clothing in there, you've got some suitcase luggage, and the amazing thing is all of the stuff that they have on display in their windows, and all of the models and stuff that they've got dotted around. Now, with regards to things being dotted around, I said you're not only spoiled for choice with regards to buying Lego sets, you have a lot of different places that you can sit down and just grab yourself a bite to eat. And more than likely, you will be able to sit down on a table with shelter and shade from the sun, which I cannot stress enough how important it is when there is a heat wave going on in a very, very hot country. I was very grateful when the sun came out. If I needed just to dab in and get some shade, it was everywhere. And again, I've said this about the one in Dubai. They've got something slightly different where they've got shelter and shade as you walk around. Here, it was purpose built. So this was a pretty cool thing. But you can see what with regards where I am, they just give you a buzzer. You can sit down, watch the people come down on the log flume and get absolutely drenched if you want to. And then obviously you can carry on and then you can just enjoy getting a bite to eat. But again, you can see just the size of that drop and just how big it is and then how wet the people get. It is very, very impressive to see. It makes you feel better about yourself when they start screaming about how soaking wet that they actually are. As you can see, they've just come shooting down and got absolutely drenched. It doesn't look that bad when you're watching it from afar, but when you're sat on that boat, yeah, it's good fun. But you can see I got myself, I think I got some, they're just Lego chips, just brick chips, I think they are, just nice and simple. You know when you're really, really hungry, but something comes out burning hot? Yes, that was one of those. I had to wait for them to cool down. I ended up ripping them all open just so they would cool down a little bit. They were very, very tasty. They weren't too expensive either, which is always a nice thing, because obviously sometimes you can go into all the different theme parks and things cost an absolute fortune. Whereas the menu at the Legoland was not too bad at all. And don't forget, the currency for the pound to the local currency in Malaysia was very, very good at the time of me being there. Now, you can see in the distance, there is a different theme appearing. So there is Lego Ninjago to be taking a look at next. And then just beside the Ninjago, we've got the adventure section. So there is a lot still to come as we carry on looping around. But we have magically already broken the 40-minute window. Now, I am trying to do this uncut in one take, and my throat is already starting to hurt. So I do apologise if my voice is starting to annoy you ever so slightly, but I have got a day of recording very, very long videos. I think I've got to try and do 4 videos that are all over an hour each. So it's just going to get worse for me. So if I feel bad for you with my voice, then you're going to suck if you're listening to it later on, because I'm going to sound very, very groggy indeed. But you can see just how nice this zone and land is. I really do like all the different theming that they've added in. You can see as we walk back on ourselves, there's your bridge bit just to the right hand side. That is your viewing point just there if you wanted to walk back up and just see everybody come down and get absolutely soaking wet. And to the left hand side again, you've got little places that you can sit down and do. The one thing that they were missing from here, and they've obviously been taking these away from a lot of the Legoland parks, is like the safari type rides. So I can't remember if they used to have one within this section and they had it for like the dinosaurs and it got taken away, or I'm getting mixed up with one of the other parks, because that is something that Legoland Windsor had and then it got taken away for the Lego Hotel. And then they do have it in Billund and they do have it somewhere else, but this kind of felt like it would have been the perfect place to put it with all of the dinosaur models. So it'd be very, very interesting to see if there used to be one here, and now obviously it's just disappeared. But that is the full loop and tour of that land, and now we're just picking up on some of the different bits and pieces that I've missed with regards to the locker system. Easy enough, you can just hire it, I think, for like an hour for free, and you can just put your bits and pieces in there. They are hidden quite well around the park where it doesn't ruin the theming of the actual park itself, because often they're really bright colours, but then at the same time you really got to go looking for it. And talking of different bits and pieces to go looking for, you do get the giveaway purchases at this Legoland park, which is new to me because I haven't known that in the past. They haven't tended to have done that, I don't believe, at, for example, like Legoland Windsor. So maybe now for the 2024 season, that might be something new that they are doing. You can't get the points with your VIP card, or what they've now changed it to. I'm always going to call it a VIP card because I think it just sounds better rather than insiders. But you can't get your points, but now you can get the giveaway purchases. So at the time of this being filmed, you could see what they had as a giveaway purchase in their country for this. And the Ninjago section on this did look very, very smart. Again, look how the floor suddenly changes. You're going from like an ancient walkway into more of a Ninjago type floor. And this does look pretty cool because they have got the older team, or the original team, shall I say, in their original outfits and their sort of bits and pieces that you can take photos with. But as you come out the shop and you've done the ride, you then have a nice photo opportunity of more of the modern outfits that they've got, and that is one of the first times I've seen that again at one of the parks. So it's always quite nice to see these kind of things because they are different. Now the ride as well is slightly different. They have different levels on this one, because don't forget, it's just a projector screen and you can do the different bits and pieces with, and it's obviously very, very helpful and handy to be able to chop and change that around. And again, the ride moves quick enough. In peak season, we all know it gets extremely, extremely hot, and sometimes the ride does shut because it gets too hot, because obviously there's a lot of technology running within that. But this area seemed to be air conditioned, so this seemed to be completely different with regards to the temperature control here, and it was open. So it was closed for maintenance in the morning, and it was due, I thought, to be closed all day, and I didn't realise it was open coming into this section. So I ended up filming these bits and then jumped straight on the ride, and I had the whole thing to myself, and I like that kind of thing. So that's nice and simple. But as we're walking around this, you can see you would have had some models here. You've got some nice photo opportunities here. It's not a place that you can sit down, obviously, because it is all for theming, because you're supposed to be looking at these. Now this is the only part of the park that looked weathered, but don't forget, these would have been there for years and years. So it wouldn't surprise me in the next couple of years that some of those models get replaced, because it is the only thing that look faded. Because don't forget, you leave Lego out in the sun, it's going to fade. And how hot the sun is just here, it's amazing how good condition their Miniland is, because they've obviously got the Miniland over there's a big shelter over the top of it, and then they've got the big fans and everything around. Now this is something that you have at all of the different Legoland parks. They've got this really nice walkway up to the original temple that they end up training in. Now that set now is worth a small fortune if you want to try and add that into your own display, because of just how popular it is, of what people have been trying to do with their much larger Ninjago displays. Because obviously you could basically make a huge mountain, and then you could have all of the original sets, and then obviously you could get in your Ninjago market, your city, your docks, and you can make some really nice displays of all these Ninjago sets. But you can see just how nice and colourful this area is. When you first walk through, you don't realise actually how wide the entrance is. And again, I really like the fact that you've got a really nice bit of width there, because everybody can spread out. You can go to all of the different zones, because don't forget, each character is basically a different play area. So you've got the rock climbing wall is there, you've got the speed and reaction bits and pieces there as well. There's a shop here, you've got some photo opportunities, and then of course you've got the different entrances into the rides. You've got the single ride, or the fast track, shall I say, which is obviously closed off, and then they've just fed everybody through this way. And again, with regards to coming in, they have the same thing as all of the other ones do, but they have them in a slightly different order. So obviously they've got all of the information about all the different characters, and then as you walk around, there's different areas for things to be built and different things to be played with. It's an interesting queue line, because obviously how big it is, they need to keep it interesting, because you could be there for a huge amount of time. But it is also a ride that should continuously be moving, and you'll be moving at 6 or 12 at a time. So you're not going to be stood still for too long, hopefully, but you have got the opportunity to do all of these different bits and pieces here if you wanted to, and that is always an advantage. And then here they have added in something slightly different. Now in some of them they add in the big dragons, so you've got like this big pen in the middle where they've got all of the different dragons on there. On this one, they've used all the different elements of all the different weaponry that each one has, so they have added their own twist in to everything. That screen wasn't turned on at the time of walking through, but like I said, they had only literally just opened the ride back up, and it was getting quite far into the day as well. So the fact that all of the rides were still open, it was fantastic, really, just to be able to get on here. You can see there's still nobody in front of me. You can just sit yourself down. You could have easily done a double loop, if not more, if you wanted to. Obviously, you'd have to get off, go through the shop, and then go back through the queue line again, but that is not a issue whatsoever. Then you've got Woo. He's looking very, very clean and tidy, because obviously he's indoor, so you've got the nice bright colours. There's the air conditioning units. Now, that is the big, big difference here compared to the others, because normally when you get to about this point of the park, it is extremely warm. Where it's much, much cooler. It was still toasty, because obviously you've got all the overhead projectors and all that kind of thing, but it was nowhere near as hot as any of the others that I've been to in the past. And of course, when you get off this ride, you have got a huge Ninjago shop, so they would have every single Ninjago set available at the time that you could pick up and purchase, and they would have had some nice bits and pieces that you can't get from your local Lego stores as well, like these things, for example, all of the different bags, and just other bits and pieces that are quite hard to find on the Lego website as well. That's why it's always worth going into all of the different shops, because even though the big shop is massive, it will have all of those bits and pieces in there, but it will still be quite hard to find when it is very, very busy. Now, obviously, this is now a few seasons on into the Ninjago series. They are in different outfits and attires, and you can see you've got the different villains as well. They're the glow-in-the-dark ghosts, I do believe, and they've just added those in there, looking all brand new. And obviously, you can stand behind them or stand in front of them, and then get your photo taken with those as well. And you can see they've made a much larger scale one just there. So over time, I think they might be changing some of the outfits to the more modern ones, and I wonder if they're going to start doing that around the parks around the world, because every single Ninjago park has the original team, but don't forget that that original team now is 15 seasons ago, so that would be nearly 15 years ago, I do believe, which is a terrifying thought that has been going on for that long. So I'm assuming they have released a season a year, and we are now, as of this year, or start of next year, going to be celebrating year number 15. So what are we going to be getting from the new TV show, and what are we going to be getting Lego set wise? Is there going to be anything good and interesting, anything nice and big coming for the 2025 year? Or are they going to keep it quiet until the release date? I am hoping for another large set to go with the Ninjago markets, or a standalone 15th year edition of just something massive which I can add into my own display. Now, that is Ninjago done. Fantastic, looks very, very impressive. We are walking from Ninjago, panning around, and of course we're now going to go straight to the adventure section, which is where your laser shooter stuff is. You've got some small bits and pieces with a soft play area just in here. You've got, I do believe, one of the bouncers in here as well, and you can see we go from the Ninjago straight in. Floors completely changed. We've now got different trees. Everything's changed. We've now got in palm trees. Very, very clever with the theming, and again, these turbine fans, they work phenomenally well. It's really, really handy that they're there, because they keep you nice and cool. And of course, like every single Legoland park around the world, there is always games to be played in the Miniland. So if you were just to ask a member of staff of what are we looking out for, they will give you a hint of what to look for, or if you go at the entrance, there might be a little thing that you can pick up. And in the pamphlet, there will be a little game to be played, because obviously they do it at Christmas, where you tick different bits and pieces off. And again, they do that at Halloween as well, where you can tick things off, where you're looking for X amount of zombies, or X amount this, that, and everything else, like witches, for example, or how many on a rooftop, whereas they will play different games over the summer, and that does keep it quite interesting and a little bit of fun. But of course, they've got the big camels there. They are a given at every single Legoland park that you can see. Each zone of this is normally relatively quite small. Windsor has quite a big zone where they've got 3 or 4 other rides as well. Then they've got the queue line for the laser ride, or laser raiders, shall I say, I think it's called, is unhealthy. It is so long compared to every other ride that I've ever seen around the world. I don't know why Windsor queue line is so long, but then at the same time, it can be full. So I don't know if it's just older technology, you can't fit as many people in the ride, and it just takes forever. But this thing just here, the Lost Kingdom Adventure, we will see the length of the queue line, because it's just on the outside. Obviously, they can make it slightly longer, because you can see where it wraps around just here. And it does wrap around real cactuses, may I add, as well. But you can see you've got this little bit where I would imagine they would try and feed you through, because you've got these areas to be built up, and then you've got the cactus and that kind of thing. But there's nothing there at the moment, so this will be more than likely their extended queue line for peak time, or it's just an area where the little ones can play. Yes, real cactus with Lego bricks. Never in a million years would I think that would work, but it does look very, very good indeed. And then I would imagine the little ones can just join the people in the queue line, but it's not very long at all, because where we're stood now, you just walk in a straight line for about 20 seconds, and then you can actually see the things that you're about to get on. You jump on and go, and obviously if you're a local at Billund, your queue line is the same, where you zigzag on the outside and then you just get on it, whereas Windsor, it is honestly huge, and it feels like it takes forever, and I don't know why, but it just must be slightly different technology. So maybe one day I will learn the reason why it is much longer and much slower. I know they've had to split the queue line up over the train track, so that might have something to do with it, because the train does go through, yes, I am saying this correctly, the train track does go through the middle of the queue line, so you do have to wait for the train to pass before you can get to the other side of the queue. But I do like the models that are wrapping around here, because there's quite a lot to look at within the different cacti bit that they've got. And again, you've got these nice little building areas just on the outside, and you've got the different fans to keep you cool. So you can see that the high score was 75,000. I got competitive and got absolutely nowhere near that whatsoever, and I had the whole thing to myself. So that has to be a lie. There's no way somebody got 75,000. Not that I'm competitive, but I'm sure they've just made that number up, because I got nowhere near it. I don't think I missed anything, because I had the whole wall to myself to shoot, and I could easily aim for the biggest colours. But look at the size of that. You can see just how hard it's working, and it was such a good idea to have those in there. But again, this area and this zone is very, very good with regards to just, you've got the palm tree theming, you've got the camels, you've got the different seating area, you've got places you can keep cool, you can grab yourself a bite to eat, and then you've got all of the other little bits and pieces dotted around as well. It just works. As you're going in from zone to zone, it does the trick, but you've got to appreciate the effort that they have, even putting in different shrubbery as you're walking around and you're going through. And I'm pretty sure we're about to then move into what is the largest section of the park, which is the Lego City section. So you can see on these two, you've got the height restrictions for both of the Lost Kingdom, and you've got it for the Ninjago just underneath. So as we're coming round, just look how quickly everything changes, how they've created that feel of the palm trees. You've got all of this amazing architecture and everything just there. And then I think what I'm about to do now is just turn around and look at the floor. That is exactly what I've been trying to do the whole time. And now we're in a city. So all of a sudden, look, you've lost the palm trees, you've got all the different grass, you've got the different trees that are there, and now we are in a city feel. So you can use the road as the walkway, and that is something that I am trying to do in my own Lego City display, or should I say my actual theme park display. I am trying to use Lego City roads to have all the people walking around from zone to zone, and I have got lots of different zones that we are looking at. So I'm basically trying to do a carbon copy of this sort of design. So fingers crossed, one day I will be able to get my teeth sunk into all the tiling, and that should be good fun, and that should start bringing it all together. Now this is really easy to follow, really big section of the park. This is actually the area you pick up the train from as well. So don't forget, we saw that train right at the very, very start. That track is massive, but we do pick it up from here. Now, at Windsor, you pick it up from Heart Lake City. So you pick it up from the Friends section. In Billund, you just pick it up from the location in the middle. I don't really technically think that is in its own zone as such. You're just walking to an area, and it's just beside the Miniland, and you just hop on and you just loop around. Whereas this one, you are very, very clearly walking into a very large indoor train station. Now, another thing that is slightly different in the Lego City section, they have a mix of police and fire bits and pieces for the water pop-out game, and that is obviously where you've got to pump the little vehicle and it shoots over to the one side, then you've got to pump the water to get the water through the hole, and then you've got to race back again. So this does have two of these. They've got the one that we're looking at, and then they've got the one a little bit further around. And again, the queue lines for these are pretty cool because you've got lots and lots of different cats, and you've got the different firefighters and stuff just in much larger Lego form. But you can see just the scale of the fascia of both of these. You can see again in the distance just where the other vehicles are. And then obviously what you've got to be careful of on this one, because this did have something different, is when you go in for a photo opportunity just here, you are more than likely going to get wet, because you can see they actually shoot water at you from a distance, which if it wasn't on the floor all the time because they let it dry out, because obviously they're not going to, it would have been a much more of a surprise. So I'm glad I actually did see that on the floor, because I did actually get it on my shoulder, and it does come down quite hard, which is pretty cool. So that is where we've just come in. So if you wanted to, you could just cut through. You could then just loop it around. You've got multiple ways that you can cut through. So you can actually use the seating area to enter the queue line to then use it as a cut through if you want to. And then that is a better look at how you put out all the fires of all the different bits and pieces. You do need, ideally, 2 adults and a little one. If you are by yourself on the actual thing, pumping the water for somebody else, it is a little bit harder, but just remember, it is doable, but you're not going to win. So just enjoy the moment, because you don't have a chance, because you do need a little bit of help with it. Now, again, you can see just how big this Lego City section is. It is massive. Now, we have just broken the hour mark, which is fantastic. So we've got half an hour left, so we're not doing too bad so far. And you can see you've got the different bins. Those different bins are different colours. Obviously, you've got it for different recycling and then waste and all that kind of thing. That keeps it nice and easy as well, so you can easily, as you go around the park, get rid of your waste and rubbish. And if you've noticed, there's no rubbish on the floor. They were painting the fountain, if I remember rightly. Yes, so they were just adding in all of these different colours, and the fountain did look very, very impressive. And obviously I've seen this work in the past, but I haven't noticed it before with the different coloured base. So they're just obviously waiting for that paint to dry, and then I would imagine they'll be taking some of that tape up and all the other little bits and pieces up, and it will look very, very good, because you can see you've got some of the wiring and everything just on the outside, because they were in the station doing something to there as this was being filmed, because you could hear them clanging and banging away and getting things fixed and repaired. And you can see it was just down for scheduled maintenance. And not only are they doing the Legoland Express track, they are making the queue line better. I think all they're doing is just painting all the different bits and pieces up. But yes, that is a rather large queue line for the train. So that is probably one of the larger queue lines that I've seen. So it must be quite a long ride, and obviously a very popular one as well, for that to be such a big space. But it did look very, very impressive as you're walking through the centre of sort of the Lego City area, and you had that massive Legoland Express just there. It did look very, very good indeed. And again, you've got lots of different bits. So I'm not even on the main walkway of the Lego City now. You've just got an area that you can sit down, you can eat, you could just wait for friends and family to come off. You've got all of this seating area with all of the shade and the shelter. It just works and flows very, very nicely for a family-sized theme park, because don't forget, that's where we're at. It's not supposed to be breaking records for roller coasters and the quickest launch coaster, even though they are amazingly fun, because I've done all of those as well. This works really, really nice. It has a perfect mix of stuff that you can buy, places that you can eat, somewhere that you can sit down and have shade. You've got large scale rides, you've got the smaller play areas like this, which was completely empty, by the way. As I started to walk around with the camera, there was not a single soul in here whatsoever, because it's a huge area, but the age demographic were all at school, because I went, like I said, in off-peak season, and it was just adults or really, really tiny ones. You might have seen one or two much smaller people walking around. The only time that you see groups of people really is when everybody was eating for lunch, or they're in the different restaurants, or they're about to head home from the shop. But apart from that, I am just walking around, and I've got free reign of absolutely everything. There would be people in different zones, and I was just following them around. So I was very, very lucky at the time of this being filmed, because I could imagine it could have been a lot worse, and it could have been a lot more busier. And then again, with that, you've got the opportunity of, do you just walk around and do a walkthrough and film everything, or do you try and do what I'm doing now, which does take quite a long time to do, but I do enjoy doing it. And the other thing that they've got here, again, you can see the track that is going through here. They've also got a very large shop, if I remember rightly, with their driving school experience. So the theming of their driving school experience is really cool because they've got that area just up at the top. You can see you've got what looks like a brand new forklift just added in just on that bit with some other little bits and pieces. And again, nice little photo opportunities. You can sit down and crouch and get your photo taken by all of these. And obviously you can sit on the wall as well. And then you've got this thing just here. They have got, if I remember, is it this boating school? Yes, so they've got the boating school just here. And they've got the driving school all located within their Lego City section. The one thing that they didn't have here was the haunted house. Some of them are, I think the only two places that they've got a haunted house is in Billund and at Windsor. I haven't seen one of the haunted houses anywhere else. And the two haunted houses that are up and running at the moment, one of them is a drop tower ride with an amazing queue line and walkthrough, and the other is a party. So they couldn't be any different if they tried to be. And the theming on the outside is also two completely different castles, or haunted houses, shall I say, which is also very, very interesting as well. So you can see that you've got the bits and pieces for the HQ. The Coast Guard, should I say HQ? I'm trying to think what it is. It's the lighthouse from the Coast Guard. I was trying to get the colours correct. So it's the Coast Guard colours, which is the orange and white. You can tell I'm getting tired now. It's an hour and 5 minutes in, so I haven't stopped yet. So we're doing good. And you can see in the background that is loads of people there, look, taking loads of photos. It's really nice to see, actually. Much older demographic that just enjoy all of the different Lego bits and pieces. The day that I was there was very much aimed for much older adults. So there was, like I said, just loads and loads of people going around taking photos, having a look at all of the models and just soaking lots of different bits and pieces in, and then getting on the ride when they wanted to. And another thing that I quite liked is the caravan bits and pieces that they'd used had really good artwork and theming dotted all around it. And again, you've got all these nice walkways, you can sit yourself down, take some nice photos. And again, you can see now where the train still is. It's just chilling out just there. It's a big thing, so you can get quite a lot of people on there at the same time. So that's always a nice thing to see. Hopefully, the train itself is up and running, because sometimes when they break down, they do take a little bit of a while to get fixed, because we've had that problem at some of the other parks in the past. So hopefully now, if you have been, that should be up and running. And let me know if you enjoyed the experience, because that is the only one of those in the world now that I have yet to get on. So I have managed to do every single dragon coaster so far in the world, and I've done every Ninjago one around the world. And I was hoping I was going to do 3 for 3 with the train, but I knew the train was down for maintenance anyway, so it didn't matter too much. So you can see now we are carrying on looping around, and we're getting closer again to the big shop. And that is our full loop, near enough complete. So we've got to go back up the other side of the Lego City to see all the other bits and pieces that I've missed. And then I have absolutely no idea what is to come. Because like I said, I think what I then did is I went around when it got a little bit darker. And we will see some bits and pieces later on in the evening, I think. I can't quite remember, so the video might not actually be an hour and a half, because if it starts to repeat itself, I will just take bits and pieces out. But the file size of this, if you care, is enormous. It is huge putting all of this together, so the fact that the laptop so far has yet to blow up has done a very, very good job. From the time of me going quiet to getting this thing up on YouTube, it's going to take about 7 hours. So if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, that'd be absolutely fantastic. Hopefully you enjoy these kind of things. I do enjoy putting all these together, because the full walkthrough is how we always finish each playlist. So this is the last video to come from Legoland Malaysia, and then I can then just not worry about Malaysia, and then I can move on to the next park as well. But now obviously I'm running 2 channels parallel. It's just quite tricky putting the longer videos together, because the travel videos are all very, very long, and obviously it's all done in real time. So if I need an hour and a bit to put this together, I need to have an hour in my day to be able to do this. But you can see the Lego City theming. That's something I really like with the car. You got the bit up top where you had some of the cars, and then underneath it, of course, well, they use the road as the shelter, don't they? So that again is a very, very cool thing. Now, this is a really sweet thing that they did. Now, I think I might have dropped and dragged the file into this one. If not, it would have been shown in the other video. Now, when I was in the shop, there was a very small number of people, because obviously it's a very, very quiet day, waiting to get on the ride. So and I mean all of the members of staff jumped on an individual car and just started to race the two little ones that were there. There was no highway code on this one. I think they all passed with flying colours, but just to hear them laughing as I was walking around the shop, it was very, very sweet, because you can see just how big that road is. And if there's only two people driving around, it's going to be a little bit intimidating for them and a little bit boring, because don't forget, there would have been about 30 people plus normally driving around. But when you've got members of staff crashing into each other on purpose to make the little ones laugh, it's always quite a cool thing. And where I'm walking to now, just behind me, is actually where all of the other cars live. So there was so many cars there being charged, because don't forget, they are battery cars, so they are silent. They had the repair place on site, so there was people there just charging bits and pieces up and just parking them all up, because they didn't need them all out. So again, that's something new that I'd seen. And of course, loads of places to sit. So you've got benches to my left, and then you just got that random walkway down there, which is obviously just meant for the staff. So here again, if you notice, you've got the circular tables with the big umbrella stands, and those umbrella stands are obviously massively oversized, just to protect you from the UV as well, because don't forget, even when the sun is not out, it is still very, very powerful. It's not what we're used to in the UK. Now, another big restaurant is in the Lego City section. This area was also huge, and don't forget, there was a buffet area, an all-you-can-eat buffet. So you have got 3 big areas minimum that you can eat at Legoland Malaysia, which is always really, really handy. But look at the size of this place. You have got all of the different bits and pieces with regards to the information on the side of the wall, with regards to the history of the company. And then this is not the menu area that I filmed earlier on in the video, because on the outside you have got all of the different bits and pieces that you can queue up. You go to the middle, you buy what you want, you wrap it round, you sit down, and then you stuff your face. And you can just see just how big this is with regards to tables and chairs, and then you've got all this amazing theming up top. So it is a cool area on the inside, and I mean cool for a couple of reasons. One, the theming, and it was cold in there, so again, they've done a really good thing with the air condition. I could not find the actual menu, so I didn't walk in there too far, because there was obviously quite a lot of people eating. It's easy if I go around with a group of people to these places, because you obviously tend to sit down, or you'll just grab a drink, or you'll do something, so then I can film the menu. Whereas what I tend to do is what I'm doing now, is just randomly walking around. But I do, if I remember rightly, grab myself a hot dog, but it was either a turkey or a chicken dog, which I've never had before, but it was extremely tasty. And I think we're about to walk over to that bit now. Now, again, randomly, now you're going to have to fill me in on this, Lego Friends over in the UK is huge. They have a huge TV show. They got multiple sets out all the time. It's wave after wave after wave. They're 10 years strong for the franchise of Lego Friends, and they have, as of 2023, I think, introduced a whole new cast with different members and all of that kind of nonsense. So you've now lost all of the original ones because they've now graduated or whatever, and now you've got all of these. So it's all different, new names to learn. But at all of the other Legoland parks around the world, all you have is a teeny tiny photo opportunity, and that's it. That's all you have. At Legoland Windsor, it is one of the larger parks around, or sorry, the largest sections within the park of Windsor, and it's all themed to Heart Lake City. I said that you could get the train from there. They've got multiple rides in there and everything else like that. So it would be interesting to see actually what's going to happen with Windsor, because they need to update the name of those rides, because those characters now no longer exist. But in America, and here as well, they don't have anything Friends related. So if you are in the know, then obviously please let me know, because I always find it quite interesting and fascinating. Do they not have, or do you not have access to the Lego magazines, for example, or any Lego Friends bits and pieces? And that is why you've just got those characters, because it's always odd coming from something that is so hugely popular in one country to then really unspoken about in another country. I always do find that very, very interesting. Now, we are just picking up on some bits and pieces from the actual, obviously, the rest of the Lego Friends bits, just making sure that we've not missed anything as we're walking through, because like for example here I missed this in the middle, so they were just short sharp snippets of stuff, and obviously that's some of the older cars where you then have the news reports. Those cars are for you obviously meant to be sat in, so you can then just have a photo taken, so it's a good photo opportunity, so you can just jump in there, get your photo taken and move on. And you can see that you've got a mishmash of just much older road mixed in with newer stuff. It's just maybe that's how that area used to look before it all got resurfaced. But it is quite cool that you can just go in there and get your photo taken, no problem. And obviously you've got the TV crew. That is based on much, much older sets. So if you didn't know that you used to actually be able to buy TV crews, and they did have that logo on. So it'd be interesting again if they just do an Easter egg to that in a minifigure form at some point in 24 or 25. Because it's always nice to have those kind of things, but they are at every single Legoland park around the world. So we are very, very close to finishing the full loop, and then we will be in no man's land, because I really do not know what is to come. So I might just end up ending the video just here, or as we walk through we might be looking at some new bits and pieces that I might not have added in to any of the other videos, because that's how this video started. It started with the stuff I wasn't able to use, and now it is now here on. This hasn't been used at all, I don't believe. So again, that is more of the track and the train. That is the other entrance or exit to the big shop, which you have got, I think, 2 ways in, 2 ways out. You've got this huge window display just to the left-hand side. As we carry on walking in a straight line, that will then take us to the entrance. To the right-hand side, just there, that is where you go over the bridge, and then obviously you get into the Miniland section. And if you carry on walking in a straight line, that is where the loop starts. But I really do not know where we are going to be going. So are we going to be catching up on the bits and pieces that I missed at the very start, or am I going to go into 1 or 2 of the shops that I didn't see at the beginning? Because when I first came in, I just walked past some of this because I didn't understand what this was. So it looks like we are going to be looking at some of the bits and pieces, and in each one of these areas, which is the AstroTurf grass, you can see where people taking their shoes off. They are sitting down and building different bits and pieces. Now, I don't know the history behind it. So again, if you can fill me in on what this is for, because I think it was running for a 6 to 8 week period. But again, really nice opportunity to get your photo taken just there. It looks like it was for Raya, I do believe that said. And then here, they put on some fantastic performances if you wanted to. So they were performing, I think, every hour or every 2 hours. They were coming down and just doing different shows, which is always a good little bit of fun. But be interesting to see what the entrance to this looks like now and just how much it's changed, because you've got all of this theming just here, which again, I would imagine it is just there for a holiday celebration. All of this now, from the time of this being uploaded, would have been ripped out. The elephant would be there because the elephant is dotted around in a couple of the other parks, I think, as well. But this is the brightest elephant that I have seen, and it is huge. And again, nice area and a nice thing to get your photo taken in front of as well. It was a very impressive looking, huge animal. And again, as we wrap round, going into this completely blind, did like that. I did like the fact that they had added in some new theming on the big pillars, because obviously that is just a little bit of artwork that they'll pick up and take back down again. This is obviously the area that you can pick up some bits and pieces for your strollers, and they did say mini market. Now in that mini market is another shop, which is a surprising thing. So it does look like we are going back over the bits and pieces that I would have missed because it was just too busy and it was full of little ones. So this is the bouncer. So this is now, we're now getting a little bit darker. So I went back round again and I did film some bits and pieces that I couldn't film when I went first round. So there is another ride here, and that is what that looks like. And this is in the adventure section. Now this was going all day, and obviously that is meant for teeny tiny ones. So obviously I couldn't do that bit. Now coming back into the Ninjago section, I would have missed bits and pieces like this because I walked around a different way. So you can see how the water wraps around and just how pretty it is. I think this park, when it is dark, would have been absolutely stunning to see all of the different bits and pieces. But obviously, it shut too early, and then I had an interesting experience getting back from Malaysia into Singapore. So again, moving on to the eatery, I am now back in the restaurant that I said was absolutely massive, because they had some really nice models around the outside. You can see they've got the nice lighting, lots and lots of Lego built bits and pieces, and that is what the tables look like. So you've got lots of different jokes and things on there, and as you wrap around, each table had different bits on with regards to colours, writing, instruments, and just things. So this is a very, very nice place to be, and obviously if you're very, very hot, it is also a nice cooler area to sit down and have a bite to eat as well, which is always helpful and handy. But you've really got to pay attention, because they do have much smaller bills dotted everywhere, and of course you've got a Lego pizza bit. So this is your Pizza Mania, and it's obviously a very, very cool bit of artwork just on the outside, and you can see just the scale of all the tables and chairs on the inside just here. And this is where I think they got a bit scared, because I came in when all the tables had been cleaned, and I obviously wasn't going to order anything because the kitchen was closed. But it's just a nice area to come in and see just the different table layouts, because you can see you've got the different chairs, you've got the sofa bits, so you can pick and choose where you want to sit. You're perfect for 2s, 8s, 10s, whatever it is that you wanted to do. And again, you've got these bits that I would have missed. So this is another better look at just the different sections of stuff as it's getting a little bit darker, because I would have just been stupid and walked around too quickly to even mention Mythica and Friends, the 4D ride, because as we came, I didn't even mention that as we were coming around in the full park tour. So this is an area that you would have queued up and then you could have joined in. This, I do believe, was closed for maintenance on the day, and you can see you've got the big observation tower as well. That is available in its own separate upload if you wanted to. Now that ride, I do believe at this point of the park, is shut, so a lot of the rides now are closed and everybody is making their way over to the shop. That is why now it looks like it's completely empty, because I'm just literally running around the park as quick as I can, trying to film the last couple of bits and pieces as everybody starts to leave, and then obviously you leave when you're supposed to. I don't hang around for too much, as we got a really weird angle of the floor for some reason as we're going past whatever we're supposed to be walking past. That, in the middle is the Duplo Valley. So in there is where the teeny tiny ones have been playing all day, and again their Duplo Valley is covered from the rain, and it is also covered from the obviously the sunshine as well. And then on that you have then got that's the little drop tower thing where you pull yourself up with the rope and then you come back down again, and all of that was located on the opposite side to where I was waffling on about at the very, very start of the video about the VR headset. Now, this is one of the reasons why I did come back this way. It was the first time all day I walked past that and it was open. So we filmed the queue line, wrap it round. I actually did manage, as you can see, to get on the ride, and it is just like any of the others as well. The track layout is, I think, pretty much exactly the same with regards to, you've got a couple of mouse snake bits at the top, because that's what it's based on. It's based on a mouse coaster, and then you've got 2 little drops, or 1 quicker drop and a smaller drop, and then you're done. But again, with the queue line on this, you can see that you've got some little Easter eggs regarding the different themes around the outside as well, because you can get on some of these sort of different sat down bits, and I think they do link to some of the VR stuff as well. But you can see you've got the world's first VR roller coaster, you've got a pirate bit just there, you've then got Ollie the Dragon on that one, you've got Team Espresso, so you've got Team Magic. So there, it's pretty cool that they've added those different bits and pieces in, because they could easily just change all the theming to the ones that you sit on, but I think they were just the generic ones that are at all of the other parks. And again, we carried on going, because you then got to climb all the way up the stairs to get to the start of the ride, because the ride is quite high off the floor, and then you are good to go. But no queue whatsoever, got straight on. There was one other person on the ride, and then that was it. And then again, a little bit of the Miniland area. I say it's a little bit. It's a huge Miniland. Each one of those big colours represents its own different zone. But again, use this as a cut through if you need to. You don't have to do what I've done and walk all the way around the outside. So again, this is very, very pretty to see, because all the lighting is just starting to come on. So you can see how impressive it looks like with the lights just on the path. I don't know if the buildings are lit from the inside. They are in Dubai, they are in a couple of the other places, but obviously each Miniland is completely different. I don't know if they have spotlights on, but you can see now the sun is starting to set. It does feel a lot cooler here now as well, so it's a lot more manageable, but the park does shut at a slightly earlier time, because obviously it is what it is, because with it being off season. In peak season, I would imagine it'd be open up slightly longer. So where we are now, you can see you've got a little bit of lighting just sort of poking on. So I think they've got a lot of these spotlights on the outside, and this is the brand new area that they've done. But those spotlights did look like they would work very, very well when it is pitch black. So they were bright enough, so I would imagine you'd be able to see quite a lot when you are walking around the different bits and pieces. So it'd be interesting to see when they refurb another area, if they will be adding in those spotlights as well. And there is an area that you can sit down and build whatever it is you want to build. You've got two different bays, one on the left there and this one just here. And these again did look very, very good. But I think the one thing that they were missing from this was the outdoor builder for water. But they are starting to be added into a lot of the other parks around the world, so maybe they'll get one of these, because that's easy enough, I would imagine, for them to put in. And of course, hot with a lot of water is good fun to play with, because you build your boats and basically race them from top to bottom. Now, the big hotels in the background have absolutely nothing to do with the Legoland Park, but of course, if they are condos or flats or hotels, they are an option for you to obviously stay in overnight, and they will be in walking distance to this park. Now, talking of hotels, there is a hotel video available already from Legoland Malaysia if you want to see what that looks like on the inside. I was very, very tempted to stay here overnight, but because I'd already paid for my hotel room and I had to be at Universal Studios first thing in the morning somewhere else in Singapore, I couldn't stay here. But they did have rooms available, and because it was off season, they were very, very cost effective. So I thought it would be quite a cool gift to myself to stay there, but instead I ended up going to the Universal Park instead, which is never a bad thing, because that park was sensational. And again, if you want to see the Universal Park, head over to the Global Life Travels channel, because you'll see all of that in all of its glory, and lots of travel misery from all of the other places that I've visited so far around the world. But we have got a couple of minutes left. By the looks like we're into the final 4 minutes, so we're just going to finish off, I think, with the window display, and then we are done. So I am now going to start to wrap this video up. I'll cut off the last couple of minutes because I've got a very, very funny feeling we are just going to repeat some different bits and pieces that we have already seen, which is never a bad thing, but the video is already long enough. But as we're going through this display just here, what is your favourite? Because this is something we have yet to see, but you can see you've got the A-frame cabin, you've got some of the modulars, you have got the table football, you've got the the Pac-Man set, IP infringement on that one, and then you have got some Star Wars bits and pieces. You can see you've got the big cap shield, then you've got some NASA bits and bobs just on there as well. I think I refilmed this in the evening because the sun was glaring on the window during the day, but me being an idiot didn't stand close enough to the actual window, so you still get a huge reflection. So lesson learned, put the camera basically to the glass and you won't get the reflection. But you can see you've got the Merc, you've got the McLaren up top, you've got the Land Rover up at there, I think that's the Ferrari coming down into the two bikes. Then underneath that, what have we got? We've got the GT40, then you've got the white Porsche. So they are very, very car heavy in this. And like I said, this is just all the displays that are wrapping round this massive shop. And you've got the big Technic Formula 1 car, the smaller speed champions. I think that would be a good collection to have if they started to do more and more speed champion F1 cars, because you can see people then wanting to create their own circuits, and that would make a very interesting display if you could make a Formula 1 track up where it didn't take up too much space, but it went up and over and back down itself, a bit like a go-kart track where you race underneath and on top of each other, so it doesn't actually have to take up too much table space. So that would be very, very interesting in the near future to see if anybody does anything like that whatsoever, because obviously there are some very, very skilled builders out there. So we are still looking at this incredible window display, because we saw the display at the start that was in a completely different window, and then this is the bit that I think I might have added in but it would have been more sunny in another bit. So I don't think I've used this actual clip before, but it goes on and on and on. The window displays on this, it's a huge store. That's why I didn't add it in, because like I said, this video would have been 2.5 hours. But you can see you got a meet and greet for the end of the day. That is a police character coming in to wave everybody goodbye as the park starts to close, and then obviously you would then just leave, walk back to your hotel. The water park would have already been closed as well, or you can just grab yourself a bite to eat and walk through the shops, because it's in a very interesting location, this park. So if you want to see more of that, there is a video on its way, and I think it will also be on the Global Life Travels channel as well, with just how you get from where you get dropped off to the front doors of the Legoland Park. But guys, that is it, and I am done. We are now on the outside of the park. We've got through, and this again is the entrance, which I thought was the entrance to the hotel. It is for guests only, but you do have to walk all the way around the front to get in, to be able to check in and do those bits and pieces. But if you carry on walking down where I am now, which is where we're going to end the video, this actually does take you to the entrance of the water park, and you can see you've got all these amazing things on the outside. So one more time, if you can like this video and subscribe to the channel, that'd be absolutely fantastic. But as always, thank you very much for watching. You lot take care, and hope to catch you in the next one. Ta-da.